In this video, we're going to talk about why sometimes things don't happen as we think they should. The reason is that there's a difference between work as imagined and work as done. We imagine work in a certain way that never has an accident, that never has a fatality, that never has a catastrophe. And we know that sometimes that's not the way work gets done because these issues, these safety instances, these disasters happen in reality, and they surprise us because we never imagined that they could happen that way. So I first came across this concept of work as imagined versus work as done in the safety literature. And it's for good reason. There are many times when we are imagining that people in our organization are doing work in a certain way, when in fact, they've learned how to skip steps, they've learned to work around, they've learned to compensate for flaws that they've discovered, but never reported back. The work as done is happening because maybe it's more expedient, maybe it's faster, maybe it's more efficient, or maybe it's what really works, even if other people in the organization are imagining it differently. This discrepancy often leads to productivity improvements. It's not always that the people here are being lazy or trying to take shortcuts. Often they're trying to find a better way to do their jobs. But when it is catastrophe, it's very difficult to correct. So there's a couple of things we do to try and bring work as imagined closer to work as done. And one of them I call work as talked about. One of the things that we do is we have, say, after action meetings, or we have discussions, we have conversations about how we do the work. When we talk about the work, we help close the gap between work as imagined, which might be a new idea. That is, sometimes we imagine the idea or the innovation long before we perform it. Sometimes we perform something and it gives us a new idea. In the interim, we test these ideas in conversations with our colleagues and our coworkers. So this might be what I call a knowledge share meeting. It might be an after action report. We have conversations with our colleagues, with our coworkers that try and close the gap between work as imagined and work as done. And sometimes those conversations will improve ideas. Sometimes they will improve practices. But there's something else, of course, and that is work as documented. The documents that we use, say, to record our workflow. In this case, I'm sort of drawing a scroll because typically we will document in pictures. We will document with words. We will create manuals. We will create as-built. We will create a journal or a repair log. Work as we document it could be different than the work that we talked about, but it's still an effort to bring work as imagined closer to work as done. So work as talked about and work as documented are attempts to close the gap between work as imagined, work as done, and make the work that we do in our organizations more predictable, more repeatable, more reliable. This has two effects. One, it's more likely that we're going to please the customer whose expectations, that is the product they imagined, and the reality, the product or the service they experience, will be closer together. And it will avoid the accidents, the repairs, the catastrophes, the sometimes fatalities that happen because we never imagined the way that work is actually getting done. These processes, both the meetings in which we talk about the work and the manuals, the as-built, the pictures, the journals, the logs in which we document the work, are essential for closing the gap between work as imagined and work as done.